Hello and welcome to the RYLACast, the official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. My name is Greg Tepper. The man sitting next to me, virtually, like spiritually, is the man, my co-host for the evening is the man they call Josey, Andrew Utz.
Thank you, Greg. That's the best compliment I think you've ever paid me. Thank you for that
Like
honor.
sitting next to me spiritually.
Spiritually.
Our spirits are bonded here on this RYLACast on episode whatever. We'll put it in the title. I'm not looking it up. You can't make me. I'm already recorded this. This is the RYLACast, the official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. We do thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. Coming up here in just a little bit, we talked with Liberty Sailors about how that's her real name. And also, we talked about how she's got a twin sister, but mostly we talked about her RYLA story and archaeology, and why Indiana Jones actually secretly sucks. We will get into that with Liberty Sailors coming up here in just a little bit. Before we get into this, permission to tell a brief kid story because it's on my brain.
Permission granted.
So, folks may know that we have two boys, and our oldest son, Hank, is 4.5. And Hank likes to read, like a nerd. And so tonight he was reading a book with mom before bed. And it was a library book, and he looked in it, and somebody had written in the book. And I think what happened was the library probably bought a used book that had a sticker in there with somebody's name on it. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh no, should we take this out? And my wife, being a teacher and just kind of understanding how libraries work, be like, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. The library probably wants it to be there. And she's like, he couldn't fathom this. He's like, so that's going to be there forever? And she's like, yeah, we'll probably just leave it there. And then he goes, even when the earth burns up in the sun. and I was not prepared to conceive of the heat death of the universe with my son over a library book. Caught me off guard. Gotta be honest.
How'd you well, don't leave us hanging. How'd you recover from
my wife who is obviously much smarter than I am, she goes, yes, even then. But I think she did say something like, I think at that point the library probably wouldn't care. Which is true. Probably bigger fish to fry. The annihilation of Earth. It was a real. He's been big into space. He's been big into the planets. And he read in one of his space books that 16 billion years from now, the sun's going to burn out or something, I don't know, we're probably done in 16 billion years. And that's been kind of stuck in his head now. It's well, is that because he also, the other rich part of this is that he has no concept of time. He does not know 5 minutes means nothing to him, which I'm sure you with Party P, you understand that distinctly.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. That is amazing. 16 billion years. Oh, so is that next Tuesday?
Is that so am I going to school or what?
Right.
Which one's going to happen first? Anyway, shout out to my kid. All right. Josey, I've got the big segment today. Do you let me ask you, do you subscribe to email newsletters?
I do. I have a condition where I subscribe to more newsletters than I can read at a regular basis. So but yes, I do.
It does feel like the natural replacement to the morning newspaper. Mm-hmm. Because we all want to wake up and read something to kind of get our minds going, but we don't want to, it just needs to be in a bite-sized kind of manner or in a way that we can take it at our own pace. And which is sad because I have a newspaper journalism degree. But I do subscribe to a lot of newsletters, and I find myself reading one. And one of them I subscribe to is it's called, I will recommend it. It's called The Week Ahead. It's by Shift. Tryshift.com is where it is, but it's The Week Ahead. It basically just gives you a 5 minutes of just news and notes and interesting links from around the internet. And so you'll have to forgive me if Yesterday morning, I received an email. I got home from my run, and I popped open the old phone, and I was just scrolling through, checking, make sure I didn't have any pressing emails over the night. And you'll have to forgive me if I stop dead in my tracks by this headline: "Don't give 100% at work."
Okay.
Let me tell you,
Subscribe, instant subscribe right
tell
there.
you, say less. So it did. If you dig into it, it does go to an article about the idea of maximum effort. And so one of the things that I think we've talked about for a number of times on this podcast, and I think is very real in our world, is burnout. We get a lot of people who are burning real hot, real fast, and then they kind of crash out. And I'm of the belief, I think, as I've gotten old, not older, just old, I'm of the belief that grind culture, which is this like you always got to be grinding type thing, is really toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm and I used to subscribe to that in a big way, like gotta work, just gotta keep working, gotta keep grinding. And I'm just like, that's for the birds. I don't want to do that. That sucks. And so that's another reason why this caught my eye. And basically it's an article by a gentleman named Greg McCown. And he is, who are you, dude? He's an author. He's written a number of books, it looks like. He's the founder of the Essentialism Academy. Thanks, Greg. Anyway, but he makes the point that the idea of peak performance, and I would say not just at work, but everywhere, the idea of peak performance is if you put in maximum effort, you're going to get maximum results. Right? That's what we've always been told. You're going to get what you put in, or you're going to get out what you put in. But there's a downside to that, which is if you're going full steam ahead at all times, you're going to burn out really quickly. Mm-hmm. And so what he suggests, there's research actually that suggests that it actually doesn't work that way. And that maximum effort, in the end, you're going to get less on balance. You might get more quicker, but you're going to get less over the long haul. So he suggests the 85% rule. Okay. The 85% rule, which I would say rather counterintuitively suggests that to reach your maximum output, you need to refrain from giving maximum effort. Do not go full go all the time. Operating at 100% effort all the time results in burnout and ultimately less optimal results. The precise number of 85% maybe just be a rule of thumb, but it is a good rule of thumb, and it's helpful to get people there. And I feel that in a very big way because I do feel like I think we've all had times, whether it's in school, whether it's in our job, where we are giving 100% and we feel like we're going for this long stretch. And then you take a look and you're like, you take a step back and you go, oh, what did that get me? That got me feeling terrible. That got me ready to quit. And so I like the idea of 85% because it does feel like you're going most of the way. You're giving a lot, but at the same time, that is also going to be the kind of thing that will allow you to take into account like personal time and take into account personal health or like mental health. He gives a couple of ways to build a high performing team without burning people out. One of them is to create a done for the day time. Okay. Which is, hey, no matter what, even if it's 7 p.m., we're done. Put your phone down. Don't check your email. Go take care of what you need to take care of. The done for the day thing. Another question he suggests you ask, I like this. How am I making your work more stressful than it needs to be? I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, no. I feel like the flip side is like, how can I help you? What can I do to help you? But now you're attacking it from how am I making this worse for you? I really like that.
Well, and I also think that there is a certain level of like personal accountability with that. Do you know what I mean? Of like, if they are, like if you are giving, like you say, how and what can I do? There's a certain level of like, what can I do? What can I, the person who's theoretically over you, what can I do to help? And how can I adjust things to make it so that your life is a little bit better?
Right.
The other thing, he also uses the 85%. He says, encourage 85% right decisions, in the sense of, if you're looking for a perfect decision, you're never gonna find it, and you're gonna end up burning people out. So finding a decision that's 85% right, that kind of takes unnecessary pressure off of people. That hey, we've got a good answer. We talked about that before. I think we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, about how like if you leave something alone and come back to it, you'll be able to have better ideas. I like the idea of just being okay with an 85% right situation. Like, and you've heard me say, like, don't let good be the enemy of perfect. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
Watch out for high pressure language like ASAP, need, and urgent. And I'm big in, I like this a lot. End meetings 10 minutes early.
Okay. So don't schedule like an off time meeting and take the whole time. End 10 minutes early. Okay.
If you can be, if you could be any kind of manager, he writes, be the kind who ends the meeting early, which you want to talk about, like, if I'm at work, right? Or you are at school. Let's say you're in school and you're going to class, and class gets let out 10 minutes early. It's an hour class and it gets let out, done after 50 minutes. Do you want to talk about like an instant burst and an instant jolt?
Yes.
That is like, that's a very, very small like thing that you can do to like improve people's lives around you. I like the idea of like saying like, oh, this means going until 3:15, and then be like 3:05, be like, we're done.
Yep.
So anyway, it was an email that caught my eye, and the headline is, to build a top performing team, ask for 85% effort. But the headline that caught my eye was, don't give 100% at work, which again, say less. I can do that.
Thanks, Greg.
Oh,
that's a great article.
There you go.
Great newsletter.
I did some reading. Subscribe to a newsletter. Subscribe to a newspaper, please. Buy a magazine. Buy my magazine. Anyway, support print media. That's enough from me. Let's get on to the real star of the show. A little earlier today, we caught up with our friend Liberty Sailors. Here's our conversation with Liberty Sailors here on the RYLACast. Oh, Josey.
Oh, Greg.
We've been on the phone once again, trying to book big time guests for the RYLACast, and once again, we've come up aces. Let's go to the hotline, and let's go to the state capital. I believe, is Austin the capital of the state?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Coming to us from the state capital, where she and the governor live. She is our good friend, Liberty Sailors. Hi, Liberty.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into anything, we booked you for this podcast, and then before we came on the air, you told us that you have notes.
Yeah. I had to be prepared. I had to know what to talk about.
Is that how you, I'm not trying to call you out or anything, because I think that's really admirable. Is that how you like, what's the word I'm looking for? Is that how you like process stressful situations?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know how many lists I make in a day? It's unreal. I make so many lists. So I needed to like fully process, like just think about all the words I might say. I might not say them all, but at least I'm prepared.
So what you're saying is that this podcast is partially scripted?
It's not like scripted. It's more like improvised. Like you get like a prompt and then you just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
It's, the theater kid in me needing
I can get on board with that. Mm-hmm.
So I know this podcast is about liberty, but if I can jump on a soapbox real quick, your notes reminded me. I went in for a job interview, and it was like the second round. I had to meet. It was for the current job I currently have, which exciting that it worked out. But
Working on the railroad.
working on the railroad all the live long day. The guy I was interviewing with was like, "Hey, you're going to be working closely with this person. I want you to go to lunch with her and just make sure you guys are a good fit." And so I was like, I can't show up empty handed, and I'm not a list guy. And so I brought a notebook thinking like, I look like if you walk down the street and you see somebody with a notebook, you're like, they know what they're doing. Right. So we're at lunch and I've got my notebook and I have not opened it the entire lunch. And I get done and I'm like, all right, I don't have any questions. And she was like, why don't you open your notebook there and see what you wrote down? And I was like, that's a great idea. And I opened my empty notebook and I was like, yeah, here's one question I forgot to ask. So I applaud you, Liberty, for having something written down in your notebook.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my life story. Don't be like me. Be like Liberty. So Liberty, we'll just get things kicked off. Tell us about your RYLA story.
Okay. So I was a camper in 2018. So pre-COVID. I really loved camp, but I'll tell you my first impression of camp first because, everyone gets like the run-in, gets the everything. But the actual like core memory I have from camp was I walked into the girls' cabin for cabin 5 and my counselor, Kat, she was completely silent. She didn't talk to us the entire time. She only talked to the first person, and then it was like a train, and like they had to like the next person had to teach the next person what to do, and it was the craziest experience of my life. This just like woman who's supposed to be my counselor just like ignoring us the whole time. It was a great plan because we bonded really well after that. Like all us girls were like really close, but that was my first impression of camp. Love Kat, she's amazing. But then, so I was bought into it right then. And then, so one of the things I brought to camp was just so I could like get people to like open up conversations because I like talking to people. I brought a bag of spicy Skittles. And you say, you don't think those are a real thing, but you have to look them up because they are real. And they made spicy Starburst. I don't think they like actually make them anymore, but I brought a bag of spicy Skittles and I would go up to people and be like, hey, have you ever tried spicy Skittles before? And of course they haven't because it sounds crazy. It sounds insane. So that was how I made conversations and like kind of got into camp. But those are my core memories from camp. But aside from that, aside from those fun things, my camper year was actually super stressful. I had a rough time, surprisingly. I was a part of cabin 5, and at the time, during my camper year, the way the girls' cabin and the boys' cabin like bonded was we wanted to win everything. We wanted to win Cabin Cup. We wanted to do these things. So like the expectation to win was like super high. And I was a part of the theater committee, and theater committee, love it. We didn't have a lot of time to like hone in our skits. And so I was like really stressed the whole week. I was a little ball of like nervous energy the whole time. And I had this like weighing expectation on me the whole time. I was like, oh my God, if we do not win this, if we do not win theater night, I will lose Cabin Cup for my cabin. They're going to be so disappointed in me. I just don't want to fail. Spoiler alert. We failed really hard. But thankfully, my cabin, despite us failing, which I think we definitely learned and bonded from that, they were very supportive. And although I had a rough time, I definitely came out with some really good friends through my cabin. And we were just very bonded through that. And I was so grateful for the support and the love. And So that was my stressful week, but I was very grateful and honored to come back on advisory and be an ACA the next year, where I immediately lost my voice the first day.
I remember that. With all due respect, Liberty, if you want to talk about the person who is like, it would be the most devastating for them to lose their voice. like making a short list. It's like me and you.
Yeah, it was a rough time. I'm sure we had like so many conversations. Like I remember like sitting by you at lunch, I think one time, and just being like, this is really hard. Like I was just like whisper talking the whole time.
I remember that, yeah.
So, it was very difficult, but it's RYLA, so we have to find other ways to communicate and still have a fun time at RYLA. Had fun nonetheless, and then had a little hiatus and came back this year to be on like staff for the first time, which was fun and interesting to like take a little peek behind the curtain. And I actually did the theater committee, and that was a lot of fun. So that's kind of my whole story timeline.
So I'm interested because you did kind of you were back at camp for the first time since 2019, and obviously gestures broadly happened 2020, 2021. What was your experience like, just like personally, coming back to camp this year in a new role and after 4 years? What was that like for you?
Mostly I was really nervous. As you can tell, I like to be prepared, and camp seemed like I hadn't been there for a couple of years. So I was like, I don't remember the schedule. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, but now I'm supposed to like come up with like a curriculum and like facilitate conversations. And I was like trying to get like back into like the RYLA groove and trying to understand how to like kind of be that way. So mostly I was nervous, but very excited because I, just graduated. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and RYLA has been a very like central point of my life. It was definitely like a turning point for me. So coming back kind of was like, oh, like full circle moment. Like I felt content. Yeah, especially since my ACA year was right before I started college. And then I came right after I graduated college. So it was definitely like a full circle moment. And I was very grateful to be a part of the staff again because, it's a whole other ballgame. But I just loved the camp and was so excited and nervous. And I was excited to see everyone. Like Shelby, I love her. We were in the cabin together and I hadn't seen her in like 4 years. So it was just a great time. And I was so happy to be a part of it again.
You're muted.
I caught
Josey.
it. Oh man,
I'm not editing that out either.
I know.
You can't make me do work just by like screwing up the technical side of it.
I saw you lean forward, and I was like, I got to get to it before he announces to the world I'm muted. Yeah. So quite the power group you had there, Cabin 5 in 2018. So you alluded to it, graduating college. So what are you up to now, or now what's next? The scary word of after college. What are you up to?
So I graduated with an archaeology degree of all degrees. So it's very niche. So it's not that difficult, but you kind of have to go to grad school for like the big research things. So eventually I will make my way to grad school. Gonna take a couple years off, but right now I'm applying to like CRM archaeology jobs, which is just kind of like base, like you go and like search the land and see if there's any cool things in it, if we need to dig there, those things, and just kind of getting into like introduction field technician jobs. So that's what I'm looking at now. And if I don't find that, we will see where life takes me. Want to kind of travel abroad maybe, so I have a lot of options there.
Well, you're really frustratingly young. So for the old dudes on this podcast, compared to us, you are okay. Just a quick aside. Do you just love the Indiana Jones movies?
See, I was actually going to talk about this in a little bit, but I do like the Indiana Jones movies, but the only issue I have with Indiana Jones is he's so destructive all the time.
Ooh,
Okay.
He's very destructive. And like sometimes I'm like, I watch them, I'm like, that's an important site right there. You know how much information we could have gotten from that? Like, but like that rock that it just like crushed everything, like there's so much history that could have been, but also he sells all his artifacts to the British Museum, and we don't like the British Museum.
Yeah.
So.
I did know that. Okay, so one thing I'm interested in from kind of your leadership style perspective, and because I feel like I'm wired similarly. You mentioned that you like to talk, and you are somebody who is very friendly, and you're very outgoing, and you are very extroverted. I think the theater part of it kind of fits in perfectly with that. I'm interested in how you handle situations where maybe being extroverted is not not the tool you need to pull out of your tool belt, and how maybe RYLA has helped you with that type of adjustment.
Yeah, I this past year I was actually president of a theater org on UT campus, which actually helped me a lot kind of hone that skill. I mean, RYLA during round robins, I think was the time where I had to step back a lot and learn not to talk and let other people. So round robins really honed that in for me. But in the org and everything, I had to take a step back and know that I couldn't offer solutions to everything. I don't have all the answers. I can't give everyone all the answers. So I definitely had to just it's going to sound really bad, but had to learn to listen a little bit more and just be empathetic to people's situations, which I try to be in my daily life, but especially in a leadership position where everyone has so many ideas and so many things that they want to bring forth. That was, especially in a theater org, a creative org, everyone has these ideas, and it was really eye-opening to me, and just trying to listen. And yeah, I think the round robins really helped. And even whenever I was silent for most of the week in my ACA year, I think those really helped me kind of hone in that listening skill and just know that I didn't need to talk all the time. I like to talk, but I don't need to, not all the time. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
perfectly. Absolutely.
So Liberty, I think this was off air, but you said you were an exclusive get for this podcast. I know you've been keeping your options open and waiting for the right fit. We really appreciate you choosing this show, this RYLACast, the official. What is it? What is it, Greg?
The official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, this is a big debut for us.
It really is.
We get opening night of Liberty Sailors.
Yes. And now comes the time in every interview where we offer you the floor, Liberty, to plug something. It could be anything. It could be a series of things, but the floor is yours.
Okay. I thought about this when I saw the email earlier, and I had a lot of things going in my mind, but also none at the same time. And so there's a couple things. I would like to say that this summer is a great summer for movies. And this, I'm absolutely so excited. Are you going
to do the Barbie Oppenheimer double dip?
Oh, of course I am. Of course I am. You go get brunch in the morning, you go see Oppenheimer, then you go get lunch with the besties, and then you see Barbie at night, and you close off the night with Barbie, because I'm so excited for that movie. I already have an outfit picked out and everything. That sounds really bad, but like we're
No,
going
that
all in.
rocks.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Is that outfit going to be your outfit for Oppenheimer in the morning? As
You
what is
know,
like, is it a whole day outfit?
no, so the Barbie fit is like really pink. So I might throw like a little blazer on.
So it might not fit the vibe of a movie about the creation of the most destructive weapon in world history.
Yeah, I might have to do an outfit change at lunch probably because it might not be appropriate for the Oppenheimer showing, to be completely honest. But
Sorry to distract you. I just had to get that out.
no, it's a valid point. Honestly, I have to write that into the agenda for the day, just to make sure it happens. But yeah, I have been I mean, I was going to talk about the Indiana Jones movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen reviews about it and probably will see it. It's just a good summer of movies. If you saw Across the Spider-Verse, oh my goodness, great movie. 10 out of 10 would recommend if you like comics and stuff. But anyway, that's my rant. Go watch movies this summer. It's great.
They're air conditioned.
Exactly. Get out of the heat. I think tomorrow it's supposed to be like 107 in Austin or something. And I think that's crazy. That's insane.
Okay, so finally, Liberty. We're here with Liberty Sailors here on the RYLACast. And finally, before we let you go, we need to address the elephant in the room, which is you're on a short list. You're probably on my Mount Rushmore of names, like of people that I know, and I'm sure you get this a lot. I did have a friend whose name was Dudley Commander, which is presently number one on my like, to be clear, you're chasing Dudley. But I have a silly name, right? Tepper's a silly name. You have an awesome name. What is it like going through life named Liberty Sailors?
I am very grateful that I was given that name because it makes me stick out in like the most random things. Like I'll like go to like an audition or something and they'll be like, I've been waiting for you all day. Your name is so cool. And I'm like, thank you. That's exciting. Do I get the audition all the time? No, but I think it's fun. And people like are more willing to like open up and talk to me if they're like, it's a conversation starter and I love it. So, and I don't know if you know this, Tep, but I have a twin sister named Charity and an older sister named Destiny. So we're like all vibes. Yeah.
What?
So we're just
so it's like you guys were all named after Frisco ISD high schools.
Is like that really?
Oh well, there is a Frisco Liberty. There's not a Frisco Charity, and there's not a Frisco Destiny. But anyway, they're all there's like independence and like all these vibes. That is amazing. Go ahead, Josey.
So it's like the real life Powerpuff Girls. I feel like.
Oh wow.
Could you be digging up archaeological sites by day and cleaning up Indiana Jones' destruction by night?
Yeah, like stopping him.
That sounds really cool. I'm so glad that you came up with that idea because I might steal it.
That's really good, Josey.
All yours.
I played Bubbles in a college production of the Powerpuff Girls, so it's just the lore.
It's all coming together here, and it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't come on the RYLAcast. Liberty, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to be on. You guys are awesome.
There she is, Liberty Sailors, our guest here on this episode of the RYLAcast. We sure appreciate her taking some time and talking with us about how Indiana Jones, not a good archaeologist.
No, he is not. Is not.
Still cooking. He's got a movie out right now.
Still cooking. That's right.
He's got a movie out right now. Anyway, we appreciate her, and we appreciate her courage to go see the Oppenheimer Barbie double dip. That's the cultural event of the season. And now to bring us home, round and third, heading for home. We're waving him home. Maybe I'm watching the All-Star game. I can't vouch for that. here's our good friend Andrew Josey.
Well, thank you, Greg. Yeah, and you said something at the end of the first segment that I wanted to come back to. Big fan of print media. You know, I have friends in the print media, and I think the reason I subscribe to so many newsletters that it takes me forever to read is if somebody's going to put something out there, I want to show support to that person, and that's how we learn, right? And yeah, go buy your magazine. I guess high school football adjacent is what I'll call myself. I'm a subscriber. This may
Thanks,
sound
man.
like a Greg Tepper, I'm building you up, but you don't have to have a solid knowledge of something to subscribe to it. That's kind of
Thanks,
the point
man.
of the
And here
subscription.
I'm gonna point my video conferencing camera up so you can see the roof of my house. You're helping to pay for that, so thank you.
Perfect. Happy to help. Okay, so now something to leave you with, a small segment. I can't remember what we are naming it now, but
We really did get away from the naming conventions earlier. It was like something to think about,
and then
and it was
something
like
to leave you with.
something to leave you with. Yeah. We just started being like big segment, small segment. We've just really started mailing this bad boy in. Anyway, go on.
We like to introspectively, look at where we're at and where we want to go and make sure we make updates as needed. Always don't be afraid to make some changes. That's what this podcast's about.
Agreed.
So I'm a big fan of music, Greg, and I don't know if you know where this is going, but this podcast corresponds to a recent release of Speak Now, Taylor's version, the latest in Taylor Swift's re-recording of her albums. And I'm always interested in Taylor Swift leadership tie-ins. She was a formative part of my youth, and shout out the TS Freaks texting group we have on the side. That's a story for another time. But this album came out 13 years ago, and I think music tells a story. And no matter what kind of music, or you are very interested in what I have to say.
I am very interested
hanging on every word.
I'm very interested.
And I think I find it fascinating that, the songs that came out in 2010 when I was in college now mean different things to me 13 years later. As an old, not older, just as an old trying to hang with the youths. And I think that someone like Taylor Swift has had incredible staying power. And if we want to talk about ways to develop yourself and throw yourself into, and we can debate kind of how she got to where she is, but honing your craft, building your brand. I think Taylor Swift has a lot of things that people can look into. And one thing that I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. You and I messaged back and forth about the ability that she has to reproduce music that she already wrote and sold many years ago to the same audience and a new audience, if not bigger than when she originally released the.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt bigger than when she originally released.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating that and I people may be struggling to find the leadership tie-in here, but I think the focus is to build your brand, up your game. The story behind why she's re-releasing the music, I think, is a rallying cry that people get behind and want to support an individual, regardless of how famous that individual is or was before. She owns her own music now, and I just think over the last couple of years, she's grown, and that growth has been outwardly facing, just given her fame and the spotlight that she's in. And I don't know. I just think it's a fascinating story. just how, it's had me look back on where I was, 13 years ago in my life, and the goals and things that I had set out there have changed a little bit. I'm much happier now than I'm happy with where I am compared to where I started. And I just think that we all need to take some time and just look at where you've been, look at where you're going, and where you want to be.
Measure your growth. Absolutely.
Measure your growth.
So because I'm a jerk, I did make a tweet about it, about that exact thing, about how you got to respect the hustle of Taylor Swift to sell the same songs, like re-record them. And two mutual friends of ours, whom, to be clear, I love and are among my very favorite people, definitely scolded me for that tweet. I definitely caught it, like I caught one on the jaw for that one. Thou shalt not besmirch the name of our Taylor. I get it. I get it now. I understand the story. I have my own thoughts on it, which I've explained to them, but that's good. I'm happy for her. It does seem like she's a pretty genuine person, which is nice. You like to see good things happen to good people, but yeah, that's very good. Yeah, I think there's a lesson there in just measuring your growth and looking for signposts, and of those signposts, like taking an opportunity to understand where you are and where you've been. So that's good. Thanks, Josey.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, that's going to do it for us. I don't know if we have any podcast announcements. Do we have any podcast business, any old business? Should we do Robert's Rules of Order? Completely out of order. All old business, then new business. I think what I can tell you is to go to the website, RYLA5810.org, and check out all the goodness we've got on that bad boy. And yeah, I would invite you to rate this podcast, comment on this podcast, and tell a friend about this podcast. And here with an antiquated way of telling a friend about the podcast is Josey.
Yes, thank you, Greg. One thing that I don't think has been seen for quite some time, but it was really prominent in the late 1800s, was the heliograph device.
Heliograph.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but it has I believe it's very topical for the Oppenheimer Barbie doubleheader here.
Oh yeah.
But the heliograph redirects beams of sunlight, sometimes moonlight, at distant points using mirrors and a keying system to interrupt the signal. And the flashes correspond to Morse code, but could be sent as quick as 12 to 15 words a minute. And we're talking like great distances here, like 25 miles apart typically. The most distance ever covered is 183 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what I'm getting at here is, Austin's probably pushing that 183 pretty close. But we have RYLA alum all over the world even. And so as you're telling a friend via Morse code using this heliograph device to listen to the RYLAcast, just aim, if you're in the DFW area, aim in any direction, and within 183 miles, I bet you'll hit
you'll
a
find
RYLA
a
alum.
RYLArian for sure.
Yeah.
You can't throw a rock around here without hitting one.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thanks for listening to the podcast, everybody. And Josey, thanks for your courage.
Thanks, Greg.
Talk to you next time on the RYLAcast.